Hello there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives, and today we're going to be talking about episode 8 of the original Ben 10 series, The Alliance. And in this episode, we get another appearance of Vilgax, contributing more to his overarching story. In this case, he decides to just send more drones down to find Ben and get the Omnitrix, and they do, but while they do, Ben and his family are stopping at a gas station to get supplies, fill up, and so forth. But while they're there, there's a a nearby truck is being robbed by a group of high-tech robbers, pretty much. Ben goes to fight them, but he discovers that they're women, with their leader being named Joey, which they never state in the episode, but you learn if you look at supplemental material. And Ben doesn't want to fight them because they're women, but during everything, the robots attack. Ben is able to fight them, but in the process, some of the gas station gets destroyed, and some of it falls on Ben's grandfather. So Ben manages to get away with his grandfather and cousin, so he can get his grandpa to a hospital. But Joey, the leader of this gang, is left behind as her cronies run away once the robots came. And as such, Joey's a little bit curious about the robots, picks one up, and it winds up attaching a thing to her neck, and it winds up pretty much turning her into a half robot with all of its abilities and powers and so forth. And so when Vilgax hears about this, he decides to task Joey with finding the Omnitrix. And while Joey isn't very lenient on being told what to do, she does comply. Especially when Vilgax somehow telepathically tells her about their mission that she has. So, in the meantime, Ben and Gwen are at the hospital, or Ben, Gwen, and Max are at the hospital because Max was injured because of Max's injury, and Ben is actually feeling, and this is Ben's feeling guilty because he thinks that because not only does he feel like that he can help his grandfather, and that he should, but he also blames himself because those robots came after them because Ben's wearing the Omnitrix, and as such, Ben feels like that as long as his family's with them, they're not safe. But Joey went to it. But Joey, or Rojo, again, we learn this later, attacks because Ben was messing with his Omnitrix. And while Ben is able to subdue her for a while, Ben decides that with what happened to Max and with the recent attack, Ben decides to leave his family, leaving a note behind. And Rojo, in another attempt to get Ben out, winds up attacking a police academy. Ben goes to fight her. Max and Gwen hear about the attack and know that Ben is probably there. So Gwen decides to go again, even though Max tells her that she shouldn't go alone. But she leaves him there because of his injury. She leaves him at the hospital because of his injury. But Gwen sneaks into a ambulance because because most likely an ambulance is going to go to find anyone to help anyone that's injured. But Gwen's there. Ben finds her while he's battling Rojo, and pretty much at this point, and Ben doesn't know how to finally beat her, but Max calls them via Gwen's cell phone, and Ben learns that gives Ben advice that lets him know that maybe he can go upgrade and merge with her. And while he does do this plan, and he does this to her, he winds up doing this to her, but in the process, he winds up getting a vision of Vilgax, just telling Ben that no matter what Ben does, or where he goes, or how he stops him, Vilgax is always going to be following behind him, and he's not going to stop till he gets what he wants. But in the end, Ben goes back to his family, and we get more of a glimpse of we get more stuff with Vilgax, and to be honest, I think this is, well, I don't feel like this is the most perfect episode in the series. There are things in there that I think are they're still worth watching. Like, for example, again, we see more of the Vilgax arc. In this case, we see more of a continuation of his injury. And, like, in the last two appearances of him in the series, he's been heavily injured because of what happened in the first episode. And usually he's in a healing pod and he looks severely hurt. Parts of his body are destroyed. But in this case, the pod is still there, but now it's been covered up by metal. All there's like a small little window. And and at this point, you don't even see Vilgax anymore. You only see his eyes when they cut into side. And it kind of adds a nice little bit of mystery and suspense. It kind of makes him look more intimidating. Like he's like a final boss or something. Like he's the final boss that's being worked up of. And I do kind of like his interactions with Rojo and Ben in this episode. I really like them because, as I stated before, I think Vilgax is actually one of the better villains of the show, with his best moments being in the first series. And in this case, what I think actually worked was I liked it because when he was talking to Ben and Rojo, he was clearly telling that he was the one in charge, that I'm the one you answer to no matter what. When he confronts Rojo, he's pretty much just telling her, don't question me, don't talk back to me, I am in control, I'm responsible for your power, if you do what I say, if you do what I say, I'll help you get used to it, and if you don't do what I say, your ass is grass. And he pretty much has that same demeanor when Ben winds up getting a vision of him as well. Again, telling him that no matter what, Vilgax is not going to rest till he gets the Omnitrix. And so, I'm trying to think what else is there I can talk about. Well, I also liked one of the conflicts in this episode. Like, again, it's not really something that's brought up that much later in the series, especially with Ben's arrogance, but it also kind of helps with Ben's family ties, because as I've said before, we see that Ben's family is kind of the family that will do anything for each other, regardless of their own personal feelings. So it's a family member, like Ben and Gwen's little sibling rivalry. In this case, Ben, because of Max's injury, is starting to think that maybe he shouldn't be around his family, and that he's better off without any loved ones. Which is kind of a nice thing, and it actually kind of shows if you actually think about it, it kind of shows a bit of a harshness with having a kid superhero, because kid superheroes because every superhero has loved ones, and they're always going to deal with if the people I find out who I am, then my family members become targets. But in this case, since Ben's family are his teammates, they're still targets because they aid in him, and they're usually caught in the crossfire. And I think what makes it even worse is that Ben is still a kid. And while I know it's it does kind of again feed into growing up and learning the responsibilities. But in this case, I think that'd be kind of a lot of pressure to put on a kid superhero, because they know that they can't do this alone. They have family, but knowing that their family could get hurt because of their actions is probably a lot to throw. It's a lot to throw down on a kid when they're just starting out, and it does, and I do sort of like how Ben deals with it. Pretty much, you think it. Okay, maybe not all entirely, but I do sort of like that they are sort of addressing that Ben does know all this, and it does show again that he cares about his family, and while he is arrogant, he still wants the best for them. He still wants them to be happy, be safe, and all that. And I'm trying to think what else is there. We also get some more hints towards not just Vilgax's subplot, but Max. And I mentioned this before in some episodes, but in certain episodes we usually get hints of Max's past, like in the first episode in Washington B.C. And actually, I'm trying to. I don't really know if it was mentioned in many other episodes, but in this case, at the end of the episode, when Ben is back with his family after he realizes I need you as much as you need me. Sorry, phone. Ben describes seeing Vilgax in the vision, and Max actually looks a bit troubled. Ben questions him about it, and Max writes it off and says, it's nothing really. What's important is that we're together as a family. But once Ben's back inside the RV, you see Max just look very stern. He looks up to the sky, and you just know that Max is real, and you can just tell that and we get more, and it's real, and it shows that maybe that Max in some way might know who Vilgax is, which is ultimately later confirmed. Spoilers for anyone who has not watched Ben 10, but I think it's a nice little. It's a nice little bit of hint. It's a nice little hint of what of Max's past, and I'm sorry, and such. And sorry, I'm still trying to think of what else I can talk about in this episode. And well, I think one another two aspects are usually kind of the beginning and Rojo. Like Rojo doesn't really appear much throughout this series. In fact, her only other appearance is in the -10 is in the Ben 10 versus -10 two-parter. But Rojo, I think she's a okay villain in most regards, because I kind of like that we do see more of normal people getting superpowers in relation to Ben, and it is sort of creative to see that Vilgax's robots can adapt, which is something that we get to see something that we see later on in a later episode. But really, she's just sort of the generic mook. Sorry. She's just sort of the generic mook. Like, she has powers, and she just really just wants to steal, get rich, and she just likes violence. Again, she's not bland. She's not really bland, because I do sort of like that she can be creative, and that she does know certain tropes, and that she does kind of like the power, that she does get used to the power quickly, her powers quickly, and even after, she still is very willing to fight. But I don't know. I feel like there are better villains out there, especially in this series, especially in the next episode. I'm looking forward to next week, but what I do kind of like, though, that they do sort of tie it in with the main plot. Like, I think what happens, that there are some episodes where this happens, there's like a crime that's going on in like the first opening segment of Ben 10, but afterwards it has nothing to do with what happens later on in the episode, like in permanent retirement, or in Tourist Trap. There's like something that Ben interferes with like going hero, but it serves no purpose to the plot. In this case, the opening crime actually does serve to the overarching plot, because that criminal actually comes back as the main villain, which I like. I like tying it all together, just showing that these two events that have nothing to do with each other come together in the end of it. And I do like that. So, but overall, I think the Alliance is just an okay episode. We have some nice plot moments with Vilgax and such. We get some more hints towards Max's past, and we get to see more. And we finally get to see the meeting of Ben and Vilgax, which I think is a really nice way of kind of preparing Ben for the finale. So, yeah, on the whole, I think it's a good episode, and I think it's an okay episode, and yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can say. So, yeah, all right. So, thank you all for watching. This is Sam Johnson, and tune in next week where we look at episode 9 of the original Ben 10 series. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you then. Take care.